Okay, hi guys, and today what we're looking at is walking bass lines, and in particular using chromaticism within the walking bass line. We will also look at using tritone substitutions. What I've got here on the left is a little bass line that I've just put together for, this is actually the chord progression from Fly Me to the Moon. It's the first 16 bars, and what I've done here is I've designed a bass line to illustrate the use of chromaticism and how we can use chromaticism to get direction in a bass line flow. You'll see that this bass line flows upward chromatically and then comes down chromatically, and then it comes down here diatonically and then goes back up again chromatically and keeps going up chromatically, back down diatonically, and then uses tritone substitutions. So what I'm going to do is just take you through that 4 bars at a time. So basically the chords we've got here in the first 4 bars, A minor 7 to D7, D minor 7, G7, C major 7, C7. And for that I've selected this walking bass line. This is what's written here. You can see that's almost entirely chromatic, right? And it has flow to it, has direction. So let's analyze that. What's happening here is we're going from the root, and this is a very important thing in walking bass lines. You really do want to play the root note probably on the first beat of the bar. Otherwise if you're working, especially if you're working without another chordal instrument, if you don't play the root on the first beat of the bar, the saxophonist or the flautist or whatever instrument you're working with is probably going to look at you like, I can't hear the chord. So it's important to state the chord, and it's important to state the time. And in this case what we're doing is we're stating the chord, because the first 3 notes in the bar of A minor 7 are just diatonic, but then we add a chromatic passing note to take us up to the D minor 7. And you might say to me, well, that's a C sharp. How does that work over an A minor 7? This is jazz. In jazz we have a thing called the flat 9. The sharp 9. And that is basically like taking a dominant 7th chord and adding a minor 3rd on top. This works on the same principle but backwards. We take a minor chord but we add a 3rd, a major 3rd to it. It gives you the same chordal quality. Check this out. That's A minor 7. Now, if I play that and I add a C to it and I play it up an octave, you get that sound. It works. Otherwise known as the Hendrix chord. So that's why that works. It's very, very common in jazz, and you will see a lot of professional bass players use this sort of pattern. Okay, let's go up to the next bar. Basically we've got the same chord quality. We've got a D minor and we're walking up to a G7, and we're using the same pattern we just used for the A minor. We're using root 9th or 2nd, minor 3rd, but then we're going to add a chromatic passing note. Again, it's the same principle we just looked at. And that takes us up to the G. Now the G7 here is a little more straightforward, because what we got there is more obvious for the use of a G7. Actually no, it's the same principle but backwards, because the chord is a G7 but we're playing an A sharp in there, or a B flat, which is a minor 3rd, and then going up to a B natural. So you get that sound. It's the same thing. Check it out. If you play a G7 here, but you add a minor third on top, you get this sound. Again, it's the Hendrix chord. It's actually not Hendrix's chord at all. It's just he used it a lot in his songs. It's actually existed a long time before Hendrix was even born. So that chord, again, is very common. We could essentially play this chord progression using those chords. And it would be perfectly, it would sound good in the context of a band. Anyway, that's why that works. Going up to the C major 7 and C7. And here we have a chromatic descent again. And why this works is because for the C major, you've got the root, and then you've got the major 7th. And of course, a C7, you flatten the 7th. So B flat makes perfect sense. And then I'm playing an A. You could play an A, or you could play a G. G might actually be good, but anyway, just for the purpose of using chromaticism that works, I wrote that in there. And so that takes us through the first 4 bars. So in summary, for the first 4 bars, if you look at this, you see you've got a chromatic approach with a rise and fall. And again, the reason why chromaticism works in jazz, even playing a major third over a minor chord, works in jazz because of what we call the sharp 9 theory. The sharp 9 theory, like I said, gives you this sound of chord, which is extremely, you know, its home is in jazz, so its origin is in jazz. It's that kind of sound, so very cool. Now let's go to the next 4 bars here, where we take here we're going to take a diatonic approach, and we're going to fall. The bass line's direction is going down, all the way down to the E7. So for that, this is what's written. That's what's written there, and the approach there is quite straightforward, because the key center of Fly Me to the Moon is C major, and we are simply playing a diatonic scale of C major, but we're starting from the F and we're going down. So that's 4 notes or 4 beats in F major 7. That works perfectly. Let's have a listen to that with the chord. That's how it sounds. Right? And then it's going to go to the B minor 7 flat 5. That's how that part sounds. So all together, the way that sounds is like this. Sounds good. So that is pretty straightforward. That's just diatonic. The next part is using chromatics again. And again, it uses exactly the same theory again, in that we're going to play, actually this uses the flat 9 because we're going up the scale diatonically so far, and then we're adding a passing note. So we're going to play, the passing note there is the G sharp, which is the major third in relationship to the root note E. So again, that gives us that Hendrix sound. So that's why that works. And then again, the next section we have A minor to A7 in one shared bar. So that one again, its chromatic is the same as what we played in the first bar, same notes. And over the chords, that sounds like this. So that's a good sound. It sounds nice. And the reason that works is we're stating the A minor 7 there with the root note, ninth, minor third, and then the major third, which is in the A7 anyway. So that works. The next is basically the same. These two bars here are basically the same as these, and they work for the same reason. So we can go straight ahead now to the C major 7 and analyze that. And here we're just going down diatonically. So I'll just play these 3 bars. Actually, I'll play the 4 bars so you can hear that from here, from the D minor 7. And again. Right. So you could hear over the C major 7, I just played diatonic descent like that. So that's straightforward. The next part is not so straightforward. This is a tritone substitution here, where instead of playing the root note for the A7, I'm playing an E flat. Now, this is a very, very common thing in jazz. I could do that, or I could play the root note. I could do that as well. But I chose to do this because I wanted to show you about the tritones. So what happens here, basically, if you look at the chords, E minor 7, let's just focus on that bar right now here, this bar. Focus on that. You got E minor 7 to A7. So let's have a listen to the notes that I've selected and see how they sound. You get that sound. And then you've got to think also where that's going to next. That is going to go back to a D minor 7. So it gives you a very nice chromatic passage flowing downwards, which makes perfect harmonic sense, and it sounds good to the ear. Whereas if you played it normally, if you just played the root notes, it would sound like that, which is okay. It's very predictable. But this just adds a little bit of tension and harmonic interest. Why does it work? Well, let's look at it. If you take the top 2 notes of A7, the 7th G and the 3rd C sharp, and you put an E flat under it, what you got there is an E flat 7. But if you add the A, the root note A in the bottom, what you get is either you get an A7 with a flat 5, or you get an E flat 7 with a flat 5. Whichever way you look at it, it inverts. And that's why a tritone substitution works on a 7th chord like that. So it's a very, very useful thing. Basically, what you can do as a general rule is if you have a 7th chord in a turnaround like that, what you can do is you can substitute that 7th chord for a root note a flat 5th above it, and that is a tritone above, because the the way tritone, what tritone means is it means 3 whole tones above. So 3 whole tones above A is E flat. Look, A to B is 1 whole tone. B to C sharp is 1 whole tone. C sharp to D sharp or E flat is another whole tone. 3, that's 3 whole tones. So that's why it's called tritone. Alright, so that deals with that, and that's why tritone works. And you can see it's written below here. Chromatic approach, rising up through the D minor 7 and the G7. Diatonic fall through the C major. And then we're playing the root note on the E. And then we're playing the tritone substitution of E flat over the A7. And then the next bar is pretty much the same, except when it gets to the C major 7. Then here we use a triad. So this is going down the major triad. And then again on the last 2 chords there, we use the root note and then a tritone substitution. So I'm just going to play the last bar for you. D minor 7 to G7, and then C7, C major 7. Then there's the B minor and the E7. Right, again, let's just have a listen to the last 2 bars. The last 2 bars, C major 7 and the B minor 7 flat 5 to E7. And what's going on there is we got this. Okay, so that's how it's going to sound. Before it returns to the top again, which resolves to an A minor. So again, you got this nice chromatic descent to the A minor again. And it's exactly the same principle as what you saw here with the E minor to A7. What we're doing is we're substituting the E7 for a B flat. Again, that is a tritone above the root note of the chord. So that works very nicely. And these are tools that you can use when you're creating walking bass lines to give your walking bass line more direction, make it sound more mature. I wouldn't recommend overuse of chromaticism. My example here is designed to show you some patterns which will be useful. I wouldn't recommend playing your entire bass line using chromaticisms like this all the time. I would mix it up a little bit. Like this or something, you know, here I can use the chromaticism. You know, so I'm mixing it up there using some scale fragments, using some chromaticism, and using some also roots, fifths, and octaves as well, just to make it, just to add some interest. So those are all things that you can take into your own playing, and hopefully these concepts will be useful to you. And I would recommend practicing this walking bass line if you want to learn these chromatic patterns. I recommend practicing this walking bass line with a metronome. Put on a click, start very slow. For example, I have this simple jazz swing hi-hat pattern. You could get something going like that and just start trying to read this, trying to read the bass line. So back to the top, etc. So there you go. That is it. That concludes my lesson, which is quite a long lesson, quite in depth, on walking bass lines. If you have any questions about this at all, just let me know. I'd be happy to answer through the either through the comment section or through my email. And also, I'm doing some modules with my students on walking bass lines. You know, we're looking at standards, we're looking at blues and stuff as well, blues progressions, both in jazz and R&B as well. So if you're interested, drop me a line, we can fix up some lessons. Okay, thanks for watching.